Greetings once again, my fellow horror fanatics. This video is actually a bit of a personal sacrifice for me because it is freaking cold right now. The walls of my lair are tissue paper thin, so I am sitting here freezing, which is actually appropriate because I'm continuing with my wintry theme with this review for Abominable, a 2006 straight-to-video film that I affectionately like to call Bigfoot meets Rear Window. Is it a good movie? You kidding? Is it a fun movie that I enjoy? Yes. This particular film revolves around a paraplegic man played by Matt McCoy, who otherwise is best known for playing the recurring character of Lloyd Braun on Seinfeld. And that incredibly dated reference really ought to give you an idea of what you're in for with this film. But our main character lost his wife in a mountain climbing accident, and also lost the use of his legs. So now he has returned to the mountain where this accident occurred to try to confront and overcome his past, and in the process finds himself stuck in a rampaging Bigfoot massacre as he tries to save the sorority girls living in the cabin near his, and also convince his friend / health worker that there is in fact a rampaging monster going on outside in the woods. So like I said, Rear Window, which is honestly one of the bigger flaws in this film. So much of it is spent with our main character staring at the window and seeing what's going on rather than interacting directly. Bigfoot has kind of become a bit of a sub-franchise for me here, hasn't it? And there's going to be more, believe you me. I first saw this film on the Sci-Fi channel back when it still was the Sci-Fi channel, and saw it on Chiller a few times before Chiller went off the air. This is definitely one of those films that the first time you see it, it's actually pretty good, particularly if you happen to see it on a bitter cold winter night with the wind howling. It really adds to the ambiance. But on successive viewings, you begin to question just what the hell you were thinking, actually being impressed or even scared by it. Now, Bigfoot horror movies are something that I think have a lot more potential than they really get these days. And particularly in found footage, it was made for that. And there are a few good examples like Willow Creek or Exists. This one, it has all the hallmarks of a low-budget B-grade production. Pretty cheesy actors, including a guy who's best known for playing a minor character on Seinfeld. And that actually leads me to one of my chief gripes with this film. They actually had Lance Henriksen, and Jeffrey Combs in this cast. These are two horror sci-fi heavyweights who, as the main character, they would have done so much to add to this film, not just by raising its profile, but Lance Henriksen in particular, I think he would have been much better cast as the main character. And not even because he was an alien or Pumpkinhead, but simply because this is the kind of, noble but flawed character that we've seen him portray so many times. And I think he really would have done a much better job. And even Jeffrey Combs, he usually portrays more antagonistic characters like Herbert West Reanimator or his various roles in Star Trek. But I could see him finding ways to make the character something unique and adding his own little twist that would have probably enriched this a lot. And besides that, the single biggest flaw of this film has got to be its pacing. When we actually get the Bigfoot bonanza going on, it's good. The action flows nicely, it's got some gleefully gory death scenes, but in between that, you get a whole lot of exposition about, this character, our main character, trying to convince his friend and health worker that there is a monster outside. And I might add, this other character, he is so blind to shenanigans, he might as well be refereeing pro wrestling. But also, we get a scene to break up the tension where he describes his accident and how, I didn't want to live, but now we gotta work together and we gotta defeat this thing. And yeah, it just totally interrupts the flow and it drags this film a lot. But as for the monster itself, this is one of those that HD has not done it any favors. Back when this was first released, before HD filming had become the standard and when VHS was still very much a dominant medium, it probably looked a lot better. The darker lighting and the, I guess for lack of a word, the lower resolution definitely would have complemented this costume very well. But with HD, you can see the obvious flaws. And even then, there are some scenes in this movie where the Sasquatch does actually look pretty damn scary, legit menacing, particularly in scenes where the main character is, as always, glued to the window looking out and sees the Sasquatch looking back at him, partially shrouded by darkness and bushes. But in the scenes where we do get the Sasquatch full on in front of the camera in stronger lighting, it looks like it should be sitting in the front row of the Muppet Show. That can be a difficult thing to do, I know, with Bigfoot. You know, thanks to like Chewbacca and Harry and the Hendersons, half the time it's going to look ridiculous. And when you try to make it look scary, it's all too tempting to go really corny and over the top, which is pretty much what they did here. But again, the scenes where the Sasquatch is on the rampage are nice. You know, they are violent, they are gruesome, they are graphic, and that's really what this movie needed, because otherwise it's just a sleeping pill. Now, it has a lot of the tropes that I think were totally predictable. You know, you've got the young characters, the sorority girls, isolated in their cabin. And isn't it just a little convenient how the Sasquatch knew to knock down the telephone and electric cable poles so they're stuck in isolation? But I also give this film a lot of credit for taking a much more creative approach to that whole subgenre of Bigfoot. You know, let's face it, that Rear Window type of plot is not something you'll see before or since. They just didn't do a good job of it. And I especially got to give this film kudos for giving us a positive portrayal of a physically handicapped character. That is kind of a little sore point for me in cinema and television, that you just don't see that very often. And even these days, as there is this rush to grant positive representation to various demographics that have typically not gotten it, they still neglect the physically impaired. So that they show this character not only overcoming his physical adversity, but also actually showing that he is capable of so much more than just sitting in a chair helplessly, as he overcomes the trauma of his past that caused his handicap. That's a pretty bold choice for the time, so I give him a thumbs up for that. Overall, I gotta rate this film probably like 2.5 stars out of a potential 4. Like I said, it's slow-paced, it's got a lot of boring exposition, but it's still a great concept, and particularly when the monster's rampaging, it's fun. It's really fun. So there's going to be more wintry films to come, folks, so stay tuned for that. And as I mentioned before in my previous video, there's going to be more Scary Good Drink and Scary Good Eat reviews coming, as well as a video that I'm working on right now, a retrospective video. It's taking a lot of time to get the footage edited, but I think it'll be worth it. As always, folks, I got to encourage you, please take your precautions, okay? You know, wear your mask, wear your gloves, look out for each other. It's not over yet. I do believe it's going to get better by year's end, but we still got to hit rock bottom. So eat, drink, and be scary, and I will see you next time.